Our Computex 2019 coverage is made possible by Seasonic, ASRock, Western Digital and Builds.gg. Check them out in the links below. Welcome back, guys. It is Computex Day 3. I'm Stuart from GGF and we are here at the ABKONCORE booth. Now you might be wondering what these guys do. They do a heap of cases, crazy looking keyboards, and we're also going to check out some fans as well. Now you might be wondering where these guys sort of release their gear. They're very popular in the Asian markets, and they're going to start producing their gear on more common sites like Newegg and Amazon. So expect to see their cases, keyboards and fans. They even do headsets and mice popping up on those sites. Now, I want to quickly cover some of these cases here. We've got the Ramses 760, the Ramses 850, and also the Ramses 320 over here. Now, well, first off, we'll take a look at the Ramses 760. This here is sort of a revamped design of your old school sort of server chassis. There are 12 3.5-inch hard drive spots on the sort of front side here at the back, which is I think pretty good. But they've also decked it out with RGB as well, because hey, it's 2019 and you can't have a chassis these days without RGB. Now, one interesting sort of feature on the Ramses 760 that caught my eye was up the top here. Up here on the other side at the back is for your power supply, but on this side over here, this is for your all-in-one cooler. So they got a 240mm all-in-one cooler, but it can also take a 360 all-in-one cooler as well. I did measure that and it does fit. You just need to take off this rear fan and slide it along. Looking at some other features in this chassis, it does take three 120mm fans down the bottom, so it can also fit an all-in-one cooler down the bottom. Not so much for your CPU, but if you're running one where your video card does come with the all-in-one 240 or 120mm all-in-one cooler, you can put it down there. And then we have some fans on this side for cooling all those beefy hard drives you're going to throw in there. Now, I did look on the back. Motherboard clearance is pretty good on this chassis. If you are decking this out with like 100 terabytes of storage, 12 hard drives, you can stick plenty of room in the back. It's like 3 to 4 centimeters of clearance for your cables. So that one's not too bad. That is a steel material. They did say it is a scratch resistant steel, so I'm not really going to test that right here. I don't really want to mark it just in case it's done. But yeah, a little interesting feature there. Prices on these cases are not released yet. I don't think they're going to be anything crazy expensive, but they will be competitively priced. Now, moving on to the Ramses 850. Now, this one here caught my eye because it is all aluminum. The top has a nice aluminum finish, and the frame is also aluminum as well. So it will be quite light as well. Now, interesting design, just like the last one, it does have the power supply in the back side. So we have a 240mm all-in-one. Not an all-in-one here, we have a custom loop, but it can take a 240 radiator up here, as you can see what they've done. Now, I was speaking to the guys at ABKONCORE and they were saying they will be modifying this a bit. They'll be readjusting this power supply cover so you can fit another fan up the top here. But I do like how the back of this chassis just has a lot of sort of slits and grooves. So even if you're not using fans, you can mount pumps, you can mount reservoirs, you can just sort of go to town on what you want to stick on the back. You can even stick another radiator as well. The little sort of downside on this chassis is the front. It doesn't have standard fan, or as when I say fan, it doesn't have standard radiator mounts. It just doesn't have like your slots and your grooves. You're really just going to be stuck with the fans that come included with it. They are your 200mm fans on the front, but I do like how the side back of the chassis does have the 4 120mm fans there. I probably wouldn't say you will be able to fit a 480 radiator because those fans go from the very bottom to the very top, and we all know a radiator does need extra room at the top and the bottom. One feature on the bottom of the chassis you may notice, there are two humongous 200mm fans. They are changing those to either 3 or 4 120s. I think that just looks better, and it will be better support for radiators as well, because this vertical bracket does come included in the Ramses 850, and I must admit it is a very sturdy one. I've worked on a lot of cases before where you go with the beefy GPU for a vertical. This is the Zotac Gaming, looks like an Amp Extreme 2080 Ti, and this thing is a beast, and as you can see, there is no flex in this at all. So that is included in the chassis, which is a nice touch, and it also does go horizontally as in a normal setup. So that's a sort of different little chassis there, a lot of cooling options, and we'll get a shot on the top for the I/O. There's no USB-C here. They're going to throw in USB Type-C later on once it does sort of get into the final model. Now, moving on to the last chassis I want to take a look at is the Ramses 320. I just wanted to cover this one because this one caught my eye. It's sort of a different sort of form factor. Well, it's a standard form factor. We'll take ATX and so on, but just the way the case is laid out. They say these are very common in sort of office layouts. It's a nice, tall, streamlined chassis. It's not going to take up a whole heap of room, and once you put the side panels on, it looks very clean. Once again, it's like a scratch-resistant steel. This is more of a matte, sort of rough finish than the other chassis we looked at, and as you can see inside, it's sort of very different than what we're used to. You're not going to be throwing in a huge custom loop in here. You're not going to have heaps of radiators, reservoirs, but you can do a clean setup here. So you've got room for probably, I would say, a 360 up the top. At the moment, they have two 120mm fans, and you've got room for your ATX motherboards there. You may even be able to fit an eATX, but you'll probably cover these holes. So stick to ATX or lower, and then you have the spot for your 240 radiator at the bottom, and also the fans on the back here. And then once again at the back, seems to be very common with ABKONCORE. They're putting all their power supplies on the back at the top of the chassis, which I think works pretty good, because by doing that, you've got all your cables already at the back. You just need to pop through the cables you need. Instead of having your power supply at the bottom, where you normally put your cables from the front to the back and then bring them back to the front. If your power supply is already at the back, you just need to bring them onto the front. Now let's go and check out some keyboards. Now another thing that caught my eye over at the ABKONCORE booth are these keyboards. Now at first you might just be thinking, yep, these are just another 10 keyless keyboard out there, but these are in a full CNC aluminum chassis. So I got this one, and this big boy up here. Now starting off with this one up here, this one comes in at 3.1 kilograms. Now that is just a monster. Now these ones are the highest quality of keyboards. I don't have any prices on these yet. So when I mean highest quality, they're all aluminum chassis. They have USB Type-C connections. So we moved on from the micro USB, which I really do like. And they also have the PBT keycaps. You're getting a higher quality keycap than the ABS. They do have ABS on these other ones. They will be cheaper, but they wanted to stick with the higher quality keycap because you are getting the high quality aluminium housing. Now when I say that, they don't have any RGB coming through the actual keycaps. This one over here does have the RGB around the keys, but they wanted to keep with the high quality, and it actually does make it cheaper when you do add the sort of illumination around the letters. It makes it cheaper. They went without that. They wanted to keep it the most sort of premium product. Now let me just lift this one up. This is 2.6. Now you might be thinking, well, that's not too bad, but in a keyboard this size, as long as I don't knock it off the edge, like this thing is just like, I don't know, it's just something like you won't be taking this around to LAN parties. They do have a non-aluminum ones, smaller ones, but yeah, for something like this, this is just insane. So this is a full block of aluminum, and this isn't even the heavy 3.1. This is 2.6, and then this one over here, which I do like, does have the RGB coming through the keys. How heavy is this one? This one's 3.1 as well. Holy moly. Let me see if I can, oh yeah. So you're looking about, it's heavier than a standard PC power supply. If you're looking at a beefy 1000 watt power supply, I would say it's about 1 kilogram heavier. This thing is just crazy. And then we also do have side illumination, which is nice, and this will all be controlled. Talking about the switches on these, of course these are their premium keyboards. They of course will come with cherry keys. Now this one is the black pearl, so this one they say will be with black switches, but it is blue at the moment. I really do hope they keep with the blue switch. I love the blue switch, but you should be able to get them in the black, the red and the blue, and possibly brown as well. Now moving on to this top one up here, it's a similar design. It's got the same weight, but it does have the slight curves on the side, so it's not as sharp as that other one we're just looking at. In terms of case feet, it doesn't have any sort of rising capabilities. It'll just stay as is, but it does have rubber dampeners underneath to stop it from sliding. But with this weight, I really don't think, like if I try and lift this, oh yeah, that is heavy. So yeah, that's just crazy. It's such a premium feel, and this one also does have the RGB on the side. It's just not on at the moment. You can see in their photos as well. Now moving on to some of these others, apparently these are really popular in Korea. These are the K660 ARC. Apparently these are the most popular keyboard in Korea at the moment. They do use the Adamu mechanical blue switch. It's a relatively cheaper switch, and they say these are just selling like hotcakes. You do get the nice sort of ABKONCORE logo up on the right there. And then these use the cheaper ABS material, and they can actually have the backlit keys sort of showing through. So it's nice that they are bringing out the whole range. They've got these ones over here. These ones kind of look like your different sort of older school style keyboard, and they do use the, actually this one's using a Cherry MX key, and this is your full size keyboard over here. And then once again, this sort of switch setup has got me sort of intrigued as well. This is the same Adamu mechanical blue switch, but it's kind of like the sort of the keycap is sort of encased in this clear housing. I'll get this closer up on footage. It just gives off a different feel. It's kind of like it's sort of shrunken inside this clear housing, and it just gives that neat little touch. And of course, for the ladies here, we have a pink and white keyboard. And these use the aluminium switch, which I mentioned before, but these ones here can all be raised and lowered, and they do use the ABS keycaps. Now we'll jump over and check out their new fans. Another thing that caught my eye over here are these new fans from ABKONCORE. Now these are the Hurricane Spectrum Sync. Now the first thing you'll notice is this sort of bracket arm design, and I do like how that is RGB illuminated as well. Now just bear in mind that is only on this front side, so at the moment these fans are blowing from the front to the back. So if you have these on the back of the case is exhausting, this will be on the inside that you'll see, and then the back will be sort of facing towards the back. So I do like this kind of layout, because if you have a nice tempered glass chassis case, this is what the case will look like at the front. If you're looking straight through the tempered glass, you will see this nice logo, which is pretty sweet. Now, as you can see with the controller, looks like these are your standard 5-volt digital RGB connector, and then you have the fan connector. Now I can see straight away these aren't PWM. I'll have to speak to them about that, because you'll definitely want to have these as PWM fans. These are currently just the 3-pin, but we will want the 4-pin PWM. Now taking a look at some of the other specs on these fans, they are a hydro bearing. The CFM is 38.2 CFM. The air pressure is 1.3 millimeter H2O, which isn't too bad for a fan like these. I don't think these are dedicated radiator fans, but at that sort of air pressure, they will be good for sort of an all-rounder fan. And the noise level is 25 decibels. So that is relatively quiet for roughly 40 CFM of airflow. Now, moving on to some of these other fans here, you saw a lot of these in their cases, the Ramses 760 and some of the others we just covered before. These are the Spider Spectrum Sync. Now these are a 120mm fan. Now what I do like about these is once you sync these all up, you can get some really crazy patterns going with the RGB sort of running around the frame. When we covered that earlier case, the Ramses 760, there's actually a controller on the back that can take these fans, and you can go through the different modes, and you can have the sort of the lights tracing all the way around. And what was even cooler in the Ramses 760 was the front panel I/O was all lighting up. That was full RGB, and when you added that into that sort of chasing sort of layout design, the front I/O was also in the same pattern as well. So once it went through the fans, it then went through the front I/O pattern, and then it started again. So it was a neat little touch there. I don't really have any specs on these at the moment. I just mainly wanted to cover these Hurricane Spectrum Sync fans, because they are something different. I do like how the RGB ring around them is very tight. It's very small. You're getting that very vibrant RGB. You're getting it in the center. You're getting it on their logo over there. Some people may not like the logo. I honestly don't think the logo is too bad. It's not massively, and it's not sort of a weird looking logo. It just represents the company. And there is no side illumination coming out of these, so you're not going to get a heap of exposure, sort of over brightness going over other components. It's just really keeping it onto those fans. Alrighty guys, that is it from the ABKONCORE booth. I hope you enjoyed this footage. Stay tuned for more Computex footage coming up.